this whole COVID-19, I mean, has turned the world upside down.
Hey.
You personally, how's this whole pandemic affected you?
Wow, man, this pandemic have affected me the same way as it did so many people. On the one end, you had to reevaluate yourself, work out how you and your family is going to survive, because of course that's where it starts, you know. Then looking at so many people that you know that have passed, you know, ended up in hospital. It was probably, and it still is, one of the most challenging periods of my life. I know for so many other people out there it's probably the same, but I can only use, my life as an experience. I had to completely readjust my lifestyle. With all the events and everything that got shut down, I feel that our industry is right at the bottom of the food chain. So we have to find innovative ways to survive. You know, thankfully, because of my job in radio, that helped to keep my head just about above water, you know. And on the flip side, you have to learn new skills, you know, to kind of keep going. Last year, this time, we were streaming so much because as an artist, as a DJ, as a free-spirited individual, you want to be out in the world, expressing and sharing and traveling. So if that's been your life for more than 30 years, and all of a sudden this pandemic comes in and
you're locked down in a house,
of course it's going to drive you up the walls, you know. And so many people that are knew of and know of, a lot of people in our industry, unfortunately, not just the pandemic, but depression starts kicking in, you know. So there's another challenge that people have to deal with as well. So for me, of course, I go in and out of the motions as well, and you start questioning things, and it's always the what if, and the fears that do exist. Thankfully for the radio gig, it still gave me the outlet to communicate with people and still to, you know, share the music and these experiences that happen on the radio. On the flip side, so much of what we were doing in our personal capacity, especially as far as the youth and community development programs, because I finance that practically out of all of my earnings. You know, it's very seldom that we actually had funders come on board. So a lot of that programs had to come to a standstill as well. So you can't do it as often. Then we started doing these fundraising events online as well, you know, because we know there's a problem that exists. There's more people and more communities that don't have the comforts that we have, a roof over your head, potential bread on the table, you know. So you don't sleep well knowing there's people, there's the elderly, you know. So we did these fundraisers and these food drives, and we're still currently busy with one as we speak right now. You know, just to try and provide some aid and relief, you know, to certain communities that we've encountered. So that's kind of where we're at, man. But I think from a creative standpoint, it's been a challenge. On the artistic side of things, it gave me more time to brush up on my skills as well, because there's the extra hour. There's
you need to brush up on your skills.
Oh yeah, I had to take
myself.
I had to take myself back to school, big time. Yeah, big time. And also on the other end, I started focusing a lot on learning how to edit as well.
Oh, nice. What, video?
Video editing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, although I've always been doing it, but nothing as in-depth as I'm doing right now. But
I'll give you lessons.
But everything on this device, I didn't want to go over onto computers or anything, because you know how important the cell phone is to...
You want it...
exactly. Everything must be portable, mobile, instantaneously. And
immediate gratification.
100%. But how can I create interesting content around what I do as a DJ? So with all these skills and all the things that I throw into the pot, and now I'm starting to add extra visuals to it as well. You know. So that's starting to, I think it's starting to make inroads as well. So it's kind of rewarding because you've learned a new skill, and you're finally at the point where you can find a way to bring the two dynamics together. And I think it kind of broadens the opportunity for expression and just to make who you are and what you do interesting as well. That's always my motivation. I always look at things from a creative standpoint.
Sure, definitely.
You know, how can I make this table fly in the air and come down? Or how can I, how can I sit upside down and scratch? Or how can I fly around in the air and with a turntable or anything along those lines? So that's kind of the way that I look at everything that goes on around me, and it keeps me inquisitive and it keeps me going and it keeps me sane most of all. And also I enjoy the challenges as well, of not knowing but trying to dig and trying to find and to know. It keeps you. It keeps
idle hands are poisonous.
I'm telling you.
Oh dear, I'm looking for the 360 camera. I don't see it.
Yeah. I mean, he's been watching the content. Yeah. So I purchased this 360 camera as well.
Nice.
I don't know why, but
because you needed it. That's why.
It looked interesting when I researched it up on YouTube. And I'm at the point now where this 360 cameras kind of become trademark of, if you want to call it DJ Ready D content, if you want to call it that as well. Yeah, so it's always...
If it's a signature, it's a signature, If people know you by it,
absolutely
embrace it.
And part of me always wanted to get into storytelling in some form or fashion, and I'm hoping that one day we could make the movie as well.
Oh, yeah.
A really, really interesting movie about life in Cape Town City or something.
Nice.
That's kind of in the back of my mind, and also one of the aspirations that I got as well is to tell a really interesting story. But I don't want to tell a stereotypical story.
Typical.
I don't want to see people of color in jail and people of color, always having to tell the world about their hardships and all these
sad
things.
Stories.
100%, because we have so many phenomenal people who have done and who are still doing phenomenal things.
Definitely.
It needs to be celebrated, elevated. And if I look at our country and our culture, we're a nation of survivors.
Oh, yeah.
And we innovate and we step things up in the darkest hour as well, So that's kind of the people and the stories that I would like to get involved with. I'm sick and tired of the gangster story,
the sad stories,
and all the stereotypes. We know the problem,
Yeah.
and how can we actually do something about presenting a solution. People's spirits, automatically people on that state and frame of mind where they'll make calculated, logical and conscious decisions to move forward. So that's kind of my interest point,
Nice. So you want to showcase us as thinkers
100%
and innovators
100%,
and I think that's how the world should see Africans.
100%. There we go.
Africans,
Yes,
on a global platform.
100%.
They need to see us as thinkers and as innovators, because there's so much that we have given to the world, and that has been totally undermined by
for many reasons. So if you understand how the world works, you kind of realize that the world will always work against us and keeping us in economic bondage and keeping us ignorant. It's a commodity, for the suppressors and the oppressors, whether it's from an economic, a spiritual, and even a spiritual sort of standpoint as well. Unfortunately, we have so many so-called leaders that are actually perpetuating, I would say, the crimes against humanity, against us. And it's sad to see so many of our so-called leaders are still doing that. We don't need to mention names or organizations or whatever. The evidence, it's there. And I'm always telling people we really need to be careful not to fall into the trap where all these mischief makers want to create some form of race war and split us up. Because yes, we have the black, white, black, colored, Indian, whatever scenario that do exist. But we even have that division amongst, if you want to call it your own communities as well. So they will freaking chip away and take advantage of that, because the more you're divided and the more ignorant and the more subdued you are, the more you're actually going to be relying on what they are offering you. So you are constantly going to be investing and empowering that monster. So if we are not aware of these divide and conquer strategies and how it's set up, especially through capitalism and the way the economics are set up, you know, for the societies that we live in, we're always going to get caught up in those traps, man. You know, we're always going to be at each other's throats, you know, for all the wrong reasons at the end of the day.